Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a multi-character extruder by me, so let's get into it. Scaramouche. Now you already knew that you and Scaramouche were on the run, and you should never let anyone get close to you, no matter how friendly they look, because everyone could be a spy or be a member of the Fatui if they didn't know well enough. So you were on your guard. But even though you thought Scaramouche was as well, it seemed like in this moment he had let his guard down, because he looked behind you. You saw Dattare, a knife in his hand, as he was going to. You had no idea. You honestly hoped that he wouldn't be stabbing him, but that's what it seemed. In that moment, and in that one moment you had, you didn't think it would be enough to get his attention and tell him to get away. The only option was to push him away from the scene and take it instead. And now, you were laying in Scaramouche's hand as Dottore talked to him. In that moment, Scaramouche was weak. He was weak because not only was Dottore stronger as a Fatui, no, but you were dying in his hands because of him, and there was nothing he could do to save you. In that moment, he begged him to save you, to rescue you, and he betrayed him of that gnosis. Perhaps that's what Dottore wanted all along, because he agreed to it. And soon enough, you were back, just on the verge of death. Scara couldn't care less about the gnosis, holding you in his arms and apologizing, and you could even see the tears in his eyes. But you still felt immensely guilty for ruining his plans, even though he reassured you that you saved him in more ways than one. Next time, he won't do anything so dangerous, especially if you were going to be involved. Diluc. Now, a lot of people hated Diluc, not to mention that he was hella rich. So a lot of people not only hated him, but wanted information and money from him. So a lot of sides were just onto him all the time, which meant that you could be perfectly fine and having a good day, the two of you only going out on a walk at midnight, where to be perfectly safe in Mondstadt. Wanted to see some treasure hoarders. One of them, with a bow in hand, aiming it at Diluc's heart. And you didn't know what to do. Your mind running a mile a minute. And you barely even registered, as you sprinted, rushing to push him out of the way. And soon enough, you were in his arms. As he screamed, yelling out your name and asking what happened. His voice was frantic, worried, and even though you could barely register the words, you knew he was scared and terrified for you. You wanted to apologize for worrying him so much. You wanted to say so many things, but had no chance to. And as he tried to carry you home, you hoped that he'll be fine, even if that will be your last wish to make. Cyno. Cyno was a Mahatera, so it meant that he got in a lot of fights, and a lot of people had a vendetta against him. So, in short, many wanted him gone. Totally. So they could get all their hands on this knowledge that he was forbidding from them. And it seemed like it was only a matter of time when someone would attempt to do it. They hired some eremites to be guards, and one of them to actually deal with Cyno in case he showed up. And since the two of you were unprepared to work today, and only stumbled upon them by accident, Cyno was angry to see them. But he didn't want to take matters so out of hand, especially since you were with him. He didn't want to make this tiring for you, or an unenjoyable date. So he tried to talk to them, and from behind, there was someone trying to throw a knife at him, and in any other situation would have called us stupid. But right now, you're running towards him, wanting to block the knife from getting to him. Thankfully, it didn't land in a fatal position, but it was still horrible. And now, he was scaring you, angry, with a pale face, as he tried to register who did this and why. Eventually, he tied them up in a temple in the desert, and he managed to get you bandaged up. He didn't want to lose you, but it was the only thing he could do in the desert. For now, he could pray that he could get you back to Sumer City or at least the forest before anything happens, just to make sure he'd be alright. He knew basic first aid, but he was hoping it would be enough. And honestly, he wanted you to be way more comfortable than that. And all night long, he would spend it humming to you, hoping you'd get back there in time. Zhongli. Zhongli was an incredibly powerful man, and not many knew his identity. But also, regardless of that, he still managed to bother many people, especially with the way he acted, and also he looked incredibly rich. So it meant that some people would naturally target him from time to time. And he dealt with it. It was fine, really. That's how powerful he was. But then you saw someone and you didn't know just how insignificant it would be to Chonli. And when you rushed to take the hit yourself, thankfully, Chonli got there in time, building up a wall of rock around you, looking at you with a glare in his eyes. He just didn't get how you could do this, how you could sacrifice yourself so easily for him. Regardless, the other person who threatened to hurt you and him, yeah, they were not in a very safe place right now. And you were going to get a very firm lecture from him. He loved the act of kindness and love that you did, but he would never want you to do it again. Not only didn't he need it, but even if he did, he would much rather that you be the one to come out alive. Tighnari. A lot of criminals went to the forest from time to time, and most of the time they were easy to deal with and easy to notice, since not many were familiar with the layout. However, this group seemed to be quite tricky to deal with. Tighnari had heard about their activities, but he'd had trouble just seeing them or confronting them at all. They were hiding well, and made it incredibly difficult for him to catch them. And now, as he was doing his morning patrols, he didn't notice that they were hiding behind him, while you were just walking along with him, chatting about your day and what you wanted to do. But you felt someone just gazing upon you. Though your partner didn't seem to notice it as much. It seemed like he was deep in thought. But then you saw the arrow, and he sprang towards him, wrapping your arms around him tightly and shielding him from the head. Before collapsing in his arms, it only hit your shoulder, but God, it was so painful. And honestly, the amount of blood you were bleeding, it wasn't that good. Meanwhile, he was freaking out, yelling at you, asking why you did this in the first place and how this all happened. But you could see the fear in his eyes and his voice as he shielded you with his body and looked for who could have done this. And as soon as he spotted them, an arrow was flying at their head. He did not hesitate. If they came here to kill, then they were going to be killed in return. He didn't play. And soon enough, you were in Tighnari's arms as he took you back to his home. He was going to treat you accordingly, and thankfully, he had a lot of things to deal with this, and a lot of painkillers to, ease the pain. But he was never going to let you do something like this again. And he learned his lesson as well. he was going to be more careful. And there was someone in the forest lurking. Then he was going to take you back to Sumer City, where it was much more protected. Whether he agreed to it or not, he was not going to let you get hurt again. Not on his watch.